Today we'll talk about, I will present some of my findings of my PhD project, which is about affirmative action policies, emotions, subjectivities, and working class students in Chilean higher education. But I will draw specifically on some affirmative action programs known as UNESCO Induction Access Network programs, and also in its implementation by the state. And the name of that is Support and Effective Access into Higher Education Program. These two programs are quite the same. They follow the same structure and discourse in a way. So these programs started like in 2007, like in order to respond to the inequality in access and participation in higher education in my country. And then, like in 2011, more or less, these programs from the first one, from the UNESCO program, let's say, and the universities that were running these programs, they started to get involved with the student movement there in Chile that was going on, and also with the government in order to convince the government to take up those programs as a state policy. And they did. Like, from 2015, those programs started to work, to run as a state policy also. So, like the official aim of these programs is to restore, they say, like the right to higher education for working class students. But not all the working class students, but for those that are perceived as talented according to their academic backgrounds and academic performance also, in like lower socioeconomic secondary schools. And the way in which they do that is by securing them places in the universities and supporting them in their transition from secondary school to higher education by selecting the best students and by also like kind of by giving these pre-entry intervention schools, which is in maths, language, and personal management or development. And those courses are given to them before they enter into higher education system. And of course, like they are also, they are not paying, in my country there is no free education, there's a lot of fees, but those students, once they finish those courses, they don't need to pay for the university, so for them the university is free. Also, as other affirmative action policies elsewhere, such in USA or France, these programs are also used to enhance the legitimacy of universities, because nowadays, like, they are highly questioned, at least in my country. So they are trying to re-engage universities with an image of meritocracy rather than the actual image that they have as a site of inequalities. Another relevant point that I would like to make here is that these programs, in these programs, like there are a lot of actors involved, like philanthropies, companies, policymakers, stakeholders, and other professors from the universities, some actors from the student movements, and various political actors for all the spectrum, right, from the left and the right. It's a huge, diverse assemblage as an network. But one of the important marks about it is like there are a lot of researchers also, like working from like research, doing research on affirmative action policies, and also supporting those programs. And I say it here, like during my fieldwork, I realized that there is a kind of militant researchers who are in some way like supporting those programs, but also monopolizing the discourse on those programs, like when they are producing knowledge. So there is a kind of epistemic monopolization over the production of knowledge regarding those programs. That's kind of the politics of research in which I was going on when I was doing my fieldwork. But specifically in this presentation, I will show how working class students are discursively constructed under these programs. And this is just a figure where it shows like the inequalities, like the general inequalities in my country. Here you can say like the students from municipal schools, which are the students from lower class backgrounds, and they are just 22.6% they get into the university in comparison with the students from upper classes, which is 70%, and this is kind of precarious middle class, I would say, like 33%. We don't have a kind of a wealthy middle class in Chile. It's just precarious middle class, working class backgrounds, and upper classes. Then I would like to, first of all, I would like to talk about what I understand by discourse and what I understand by desirable subjectivities. So discourse for me, like in this presentation at least, because it's kind of a broader, complex concept, is in its simplest form, is an unexamined discourse relates to these unexamined assumptions that inform policy representations of what is true, possible, desirable, good, and right. So that discourse constructs like some image of subjects, incites people to act, to speak, think, and feel in particular ways. But also discourse is a contested and defended, multiple, articulated, but also contradictory context of policy. So from this standpoint, I think that the question is not like, what is the discourse of certain policy, but more how a policy or a subject is expressed through this discourse in a policy, or how a policy is shaped by a discourse or by multiple discourses. And desirable subjectivities. When I was reading, and nowadays when I am reading like all the literature about affirmative action education policies and working class students' experience in higher education, for example, I always realize that the meaning of desirable, or what it means to be a desirable person, is often implicit. I mean, it's named, but it's not elaborated, so it goes without saying. So I started to reflect on that concept of being desirable. So what it means to be desirable in this actual context, if we follow the semantic field of being desirable, a desirable person would be someone which is wanted, valued, attractive, appealing, and useful. It is one that can be perceived as necessary person, so not disposable. Also, being desirable might mean to be someone from whom we can take advantage from. So it's someone advantageous, someone which is profitable, recommendable, preferable. That is says in the dictionary. In this sense, a desirable subjectivity is in a stark opposition to someone defined as rejected or abject, because someone rejected is someone does not give advantages, because can cause, and this is also from the dictionary, unfavorable circumstances that reduce the chances of success or effectiveness. And that is the opposite of being desirable. On the other hand, being a desirable person or subject is to be sensible. And this is like, sensible is related with sensitive, but sensitive is more associated with the capacity to appreciate the feelings of others. And sensible is to behave in accordance to wisdom, so in accordance to the culture. So is to behave in accordance to the discourse. Therefore, is to be prudent, and it implies to be a reasonable person. So not to be out of discourse. If you are out of discourse, you can be seen as someone insane, Foucault says. But a desirable subjectivity is also embedded in a specific sociocultural and political economy landscape. And this landscape, in my case, is Chile. So now I will explore how this dominant landscape in higher education, known, what is the dominant, right? It's not the only rationality, but known as neoliberalism, works in my country. So, very schematically, because it's also a broad and contested concept, neoliberalism can be understood, in my perspective, as a governmental or political rationality based on the values and operations of the market. So it underpins, for example, competition, individual responsibilization, consumption, privatization, and class hierarchies. And those values work as mandatory values. So individuals must follow and incorporate those values in their behaviors. But also, as desirable subjectivities, neoliberalism also is embedded in particular landscapes, sociocultural and political landscapes. So they're not the same everywhere, they're quite different. And in the case of higher education, in my country, first of all, these induction access programs are embedded in the dominant landscape, which is neoliberal, but also in the crisis or responses that all rationalities are given in order to diminish the effects of neoliberalism in higher education in Chile. And in this landscape, these programs are working. In the case of Chile, from 1973 onwards, a neoliberal regime started to be developed. And it marked, I would say, a shutting down of a popular democracy based on class politics towards the becoming of the working class as the people. When I say the people, I refer to Selena Todd, which is a historian, really, which I like a lot. And she said that when working class became the people, it means that the working class became to be this collective subject of right, power, and class consciousness. That was in the 70s in my country. And neoliberalism came as an arrival in an authoritarian form based on class policing, depoliticization, and commodification in higher education. And this process was carried out in the first instance by military dictatorship, them, and then by also in alliance with, between the military regime and neoliberal economists who were trained in the University of Chicago in the 50s and 60s under the supervision of Milton Friedman. And these economists were already part of the elite in my country, and they got into position of power within the state. And from that position, they started to develop some policies. So I will just talk about the kind of the values that they were developed in higher education, but those values that I think that they are still present and going on in my country. They are still working in my country. They are dominant. So first is depoliticization. And depoliticization was a strategy under this ideology of national security doctrine, and this doctrine, which was implemented between Chile and the United States, was aiming to dismantle the working class organization and supporters with the universities. So in this way, it operates a la David Harvey, right? Like as a restoration of the elite and colonial class power, local elites and international elites. How they did that? By making political organization in universities illegal. This is quite strange historically in my country, because historically in universities it is the space where citizens do politics. It's the first space. But from the 73 till just recently, it was banned to do that in my country. Also, they proclaim in universities autonomy as free from politics, which means free from Marxism, socialism, developmental state ideologies. And also they punish resistance and disagreement by policies of terror, torture, detentions, etc. And that was spread all over the country during 20 years, more or less. And I have here a quotation from one of the members of Military Junta at that time, and he says, like, nor can a university autonomy signifies protection for political activity within university confines, above all in the form of oral or written propaganda. So university was banned to be related with issues that are commonly understood as part of political debate and commitment. That was banned. So discussion, critical thinking was banned from the universities. And this was the first neoliberal strategy that was developed in my country. So there was an entrepreneurial ideas here. Then competition. So competition worked as a governmental rationality in higher education by introducing competition for students, by the introduction of fees and advertisement. Competition also, universities started to compete for research funding. The imperative by the introduction of competition as a rationality of government in higher education was also create this economy of prestige based on the student social class position, which is related with academic performance, and also in my country with the symbolic reputation of students, of the university, sorry. So when universities, the more the students from upper classes the universities have, the more are valued and the more higher is the reputation that they have. So in this way, this economy of prestige is based on the construction of class and cultural economic capital as merit or talent, not as determinants or backgrounds. And then this competition principle started to be deepened or developed further in the 90s and 2000s by the introduction or the arrival of three main imaginaries: human capital, competitiveness, and knowledge-based economy. At the beginning of the 70s and in the 80s, nobody was talking about human capital, competitiveness, or knowledge-based economy. But we were talking about competition as the best way of organizing higher education. And importantly, at least from my point of view, or what I am interested in, is that this process, like through the introduction of these imaginaries, it started a process of reshaping the notion of intellectual work and solidarity, like in neoliberal ways. And here I would like to show this quotation that resembles this reshaping of the concept of intellectual work and solidarity, for example. Solidarity before that was really important in my country because it was the discourse from which political organizations started to develop again, and then from that notion of solidarity we re-engage with democracy. But in this time, like with the same people that took the democracy again back to my country, they in a way they embraced after that these neoliberal principles. So at the beginning of the democracy till nowadays, solidarity and intellectual work by the introduction of these principles were reshaped. So for example, here is the government that is sitting in the government now. At the beginning of the 90s, they stated that making possible the necessary competition is mandatory for advancing intellectual activity, and in turn should ensure the solidarity, coordination, and programmatic oversight necessary to develop higher education that will enable Chile to occupy a leading position in the Latin American region. That was like the main ideology operating there. So competition, now we are not more friends of our South American countries, but we compete against them and we want to be better than them. And now solidarity, suddenly ideologically started to be promoted by competition, which is sometimes it doesn't make sense, right? Like competition and solidarity, they are put together there. That's one of the examples. So I will then I started to be then we experienced the silent arrival of the entrepreneurial student subject by widening participation policies. So these policies started with a multiplication of student funding through loans and scholarships based on academic merit. Also, there was a financialization or corporatization of widening participation policy by the massive introduction of state-subsidized credit, where a state gives the money back to the banks, but still the students became in debt. So this is the amount of billions of pounds that the state gave to the bank with this policy. And this is the main widening participation policy in my country. Getting a student loan, the state paid to the banks, but the students, they're still with the debt. And most of the people who obtain that loan belongs to the working class, which is this line. So quickly now, I will start to just show what is the relationship between this broader context with the construction of this desirable subject within the framework of the affirmative action policy. So, well, I worked with two documents mainly, but also I based my findings in fieldwork note. So the first one is depoliticization, the first value that we have when neoliberalism started to develop. And in these policy documents, we can see this kind of statements, right? Like, when my students, those under the program, engage in political assembly and activities, sometimes I go to see what's going on in these spaces. I identify them, the students. A professor is talking about, a policymaker. I ask them what they are doing there. I ask them if he, as a professor, can participate and stay in their meetings. And another finding that I got from my notes, I was in a meeting with monitors and practitioners of these programs, and they were talking about this. Monitors were discussing about how to avoid and persuade the students participating in the programs not to get involved in political activities. Now it's super strong, the political activities again in my country. So they were worried because the students, these working class students, the talented ones, are easily absorbed, they say, by the political organizations, and that can be a distraction for their duties as students. So we have a strong discourse on depoliticization still going on within these policies. Also, there is another example also about the rejection of the working class, or the othering of the working class within this policy discourse. In one of the documents, it says, "Be a professional. This constitutes a positive identity. Education in the university acquires a relevant assessment and opposes being a worker, as this situation is associated with people who are outside the university or do not study in it." And I remember one quotation from Kurki and Brunilla. They are sociologists from Finland, and they say that these two main principles, depoliticization and the othering of the working class, is related with being self-responsible, which is one of the characteristics of the entrepreneurial subject, as something that should drive people to focus more on themselves than in the collective, and lead to the internalization of the idea that social problems and socioeconomic realities are in fact individual responsibility, but they are not related with political citizenship, etc. involvement. Then it is the arrival of the competitive, profitable subject as one of the desirable subject. This competitive subject, it is also, we can see this subject, this desirable subject, in the documents within this policy. There is one quotation that I will read. These young people are presented as a different type of student, a student who is distinguished from the rest because his merits and gifts are not associated with social class from which they come. They are the results of their effort, sacrifice, planning, and clear goals. They are in this way, the policy says. as a good predictor of academic success are people who have managed to be the best from their own means in context of high vulnerability. Then the aspirational subject. This program will increase equity, diversity, and quality in higher education, as well as generate new aspirations in secondary education. This is pretty much similar to here when policies start to talk about the lack of aspiration in working class students. I think that is is related with that. And finally, we can also see the reverse of the ordering of working class in this policy discourse. So the strategic protection of upper classes. I was during my fieldwork, I was giving a talk about these affirmative action policies, and in that talk I talked about class privilege. And when I finished, somebody from this policy network came to me, approached me, and he told me, we cannot speak and revive the language of class struggle. I wasn't doing that, but I was speaking about class privilege. If we do that, he said, the government will burn us. And another one, in the same conversation, said, like, we do it without, when we present a policy, we do it without pointing enemies. We never say that we are stalling quotas, places, to children from private elite schools. To fight against the most powerful people in the country is very hard. That's why we haven't used the other discourse, the discourse of class. Because we knew we would lose. Therefore, we should go from another perspective, from the perspective of the inclusion and quality. So that's that's all my presentation, and I don't have the time for the conclusion, but maybe in the access.
So thank you very much.